So like I've heard it said before that like everything in nature is connected. So view it like a spider web. And like if you pull one thing, it affects everything else. Nature it works in patterns. And I always tell people it's kind of like if you're musically inclined, like managing nature is like managing an orchestra. Like you're a maestro. You know,
Yeah.
you're up there conducting. And so like you don't have full control over what all of those instruments are doing.
Mhm.
You're just doing your best to signal them to do what you want them to do and to hope that that orchestra turns out to be something beautiful.
Hey guys, Dr. Matt here, and I am here with Michael Kinsey of Reverent Wild Ranch. Michael, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Matt. How are you, brother?
I'm doing so good, dude. We kind of were
Awesome.
talking off camera, joking
Yeah.
around a little bit. He's out in the field with us today, really living it up out in
That's
the
right.
farm, and I appreciate you taking your time. Your cows are so still back there.
They're being well behaved,
You're
aren't
being
they?
very well behaved for the video. So let me kind of frame what today's conversation is all about. I met Michael probably about 6, 7 months ago through a client at Rev, and she was sharing with me about a farmer who had some awesome grass-fed, grass-finished beef. This is something that I was highly interested in because for a while I was looking for someone who was using good practices, making sure their cows were treated right, the meat was high quality, and I got introduced to Michael. I didn't really talk to you a lot the first day. We were kind of in a group of like 10 other people trying to buy your beef.
There was a whole
Like
bunch.
a backdoor, cow deal, drug deal kind of thing. I was like, I grabbed the beef and I ran. And
Yeah.
I had the beef over the next several months, and it was delicious. It was amazing. I was like, oh, this is really
Thank
high
you.
quality. I could just really tell. And then I needed to re-up. And so I
Mhm.
got reconnected back with you. And then we got to chatting just about a couple weeks ago. And I got
Mhm.
another round about a half beef or about 100 pounds of beef.
Yeah.
And then I came to find out how awesome of a human being you were, and
Oh,
we
dude,
just
thank you.
began jamming. And I wanted to jump on a video call with you today to create this video for our community because of something you shared with us that you wanted to really promote what you guys are doing and do a special giveaway for our community just after
Yeah.
the connection that we had. So,
Mhm.
Michael, please introduce yourself. Please introduce,
Okay.
what your family is all about, which it's not just you, it's your wife,
Yeah.
Taylor, and your three boys who are ranch
Yep.
hands in training, right?
That's right. That's
Explain
right.
just kind of the quick story of Reverent Wild Ranch, and then we'll dive into some things.
Okay. Yeah. So again, I'm Michael Kinsey. I'm the owner operator of Reverent Wild Ranch. And basically, I started off on this journey not from childhood. So most people that are ranchers get into this, like, granddaddy did it, dad did it, inherited it. For me, it was passion. It was something I was always passionate about from the time I was probably in high school. But I grew up in a subdivision in a rural town, but still, so like, I'd seen cows before, but yeah, so basically, it was just something I always thought that I wanted to do, but didn't think I would ever have the opportunity to do. And so I met my wife in college. We got married after college. Both of us went to work. We lived outside of Atlanta, and both worked kind of more corporate-esque jobs. I worked in the commercial construction field, and she was a realtor. And I kind of just got to a point where I was really unhappy. You know, Sitting under fluorescent lights and staring at a computer screen all day was just not fulfilling to me. And like I would spend all my off time reading agriculture, like regenerative agriculture books and watching TED Talks and all kinds of stuff. So it was just like that was just like burning inside of me, like this desire to really do something and to make a difference in the world. And but really the like spark that lit the fuse was my wife was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid condition. And, like she was on conventional medication for a while and was basically told she'd be on that the rest of her life. And long story short, ended up going through that for like 2 years, never seeing any improvement, and getting hooked up with a holistic doctor who took her off of that medication, radically changed her diet, and basically started talking to her about like the benefits of eating food that is grown the proper way and free of chemicals and all this. And I'm like, hey, that's what I want to do. And so it kind of had this light bulb moment as a husband to be like, hey, I like my passion is something that can actually help you. Because up until that point, I just felt helpless. And so really that was like that coupled with not really being like fulfilled in what I was doing led us to be like, okay, if we're going to try this, like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's long story short, it took us over a year to end up settling where we are now on the ranch. But yeah, we started off. So we started in 2018 and started with 100 cows and just went to work basically. And yeah, so it was 60 some odd days, I think, after we moved here that she got pregnant. And she was told that like she would struggle to conceive. And we had been trying for like 2 years. And so yeah, it was, that was kind of like a big deal. So anyway,
you knew you were in the right place.
absolutely.
That's so awesome, dude. Yeah, I didn't know that story until about, a little earlier. I was just doing a little research on your guys' farm, and I saw that she had gone through that. I didn't share with you, even my journey or my wife's journey. We have a very similar journey and path that took us to what we do today in the natural healing realm. Monica, she had ulcerative colitis. She was on anti-inflammatory steroids. She was on antidepressants. And then same thing, someone kind of shared with her a natural and holistic way of viewing the body and the mind-body connection. And luckily, she started a healing journey. I met her in chiropractic school with my own healing that I was going through with debilitating pain in my lower back, high levels of anxiety. And then we just embarked on this journey. And our whole message to our whole community is that your body and the wisdom inside of it knows how to heal. We just have to give it the right conditions and free it up to do what it needs to do. So I love what you guys stand for. I love the path that led you down this road. I always share with people that it was a gift that we lost our health. And I feel like you are in that same place with your wife because it led you down this path. So I would love, I read through your website. I read that you something on there said you got a reverence and a respect for the stewardship of the soil. Why that resonates with me so much is over the last several years, I've learned a lot about regenerative farming, regenerative agriculture, and regenerative ranching. And not a lot of people understand what that truly means. My understanding, and I'd love for you to expand on what you guys are doing, is that over the last 100+ years, and even longer than that, we have lost so many nutrients in our topsoil from bad agricultural practices. And the foods that we're eating today are 1%, 5% of the nutrient density that we had decades ago. So especially over the last 50 years or so, right? With the introduction of chemicals and pesticides and the way that we farm. So we're just not getting the stuff that we need in our food.
Correct.
And I've gone down every rabbit hole and every kind of diet and other things, supplements, all that stuff. And I really believe that the future of our food system needs to be regenerative agriculture. So walk people through what it is regenerative agriculture, regenerative farming is for you guys, or regenerative ranching in your terms, and what are the benefits that you have personally seen, and then why you guys do it.
So basically, to sum it up, like regenerative farming in my perspective, because I don't think regenerative farming really has a like Webster's dictionary definition at this point. It's still so relatively new on the scene that I don't think anybody's done a thorough definition for it. But in my mind, it is basically being soil first focused. Such that the goal of like we've all heard sustainably raised or sustainably sourced, and that was kind of the buzzword of like the last decade. And basically, I think that gives you a good window to view what regenerative is. Regenerative is not sustainable. So sustainable is basically looking at it and saying like, okay, this is our resource. And if we manage this resource sustainably, then 100 years from now, we will be here. And regenerative looks at that and says, we are farming an already degraded resource. Ergo, sustainable is not good enough. We
Yeah.
need to regenerate our landscapes. And so we look to nature and her methods and practices before humans kind of screwed a lot of stuff up. Like, what was nature doing to promote the production of soil? And it was groups of ruminant animals densed really close together and moving across the landscape, grazing and putting manure down, and then resting that grass for long periods of time and coming back and doing it all over again. So that's kind of the like quick and dirty definition of what regenerative ranching is trying to promote soil health and the growth of topsoil on your operations such that the next generation that takes hold of it finds it better than it was when you took hold of it.
Yeah, like sustainability, it's like there's a good intention there, but it's not honoring the earth and honoring the nutrients that are there. And it's almost like they're not thinking ahead of time of what that's actually going to look like. And and for, I get it. They think that they can control, and who's they, right? Bunch of conglomerates, bunch of chemical companies, whatever it may be, that think that they can do better than nature. And I'm not in that camp that believes that that's actually possible. There are some things that are necessary in this world, I believe, that come from those outside sources. But nature there's no comparison to it. The wisdom inside of it is absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I've heard it said before that like everything in nature is connected. So view it like a spider web. And like if you pull one thing, it affects everything else.
Yeah.
And that metaphor works all the way down to when you're talking about like the mineralization in the body. It's the same thing. It's like you can say like, oh, I'm magnesium deficient. And it's like, well, that affects all the other minerals. Yeah. And so like all of those, nature works in patterns. And I always tell people it's kind of like if you're musically inclined, like managing nature is like managing an orchestra. Like you're a maestro, you're up there conducting. And so like you don't have full control over what all of those instruments are doing. You're just doing your best to signal them to do what you want them to do and to hope that that orchestra turns out to be something beautiful.
Yeah, Michael, there's a lot of synchronicities for people that are watching this in our Rev community. You may hear very similar words coming out of your mouth talking about nature that we talk about the human body. It's like 100 trillion cells, 100,000s of chemical reactions happening second after second.
Yep.
Perfectly organized via this intelligence that we talk about within our nervous system. And that intelligence, we always say to people, that intelligence doesn't just live within you. It lives with every cell and atom in this entire world and universe. And when we honor that and connect to that, that's when transformations happen in people's health. But then also too, if we eat the foods out there that are connected to that same energy, vitality, and like light, essentially light that's coming from the light to photosynthesis for the grass. The cows have a specific stomach to be able to churn that and create certain
it's all energy
that we can eat. It's like that's the way to be in communion with this world. So you're resonating deeply with what we talk about here. I love it because we didn't talk about this, which is cool. So let's two more things I want to talk about. So we live in a world where we can't trust labels, right?
Absolutely.
You guys are not a USDA organic certified ranch, correct? And
that's correct.
I believe I know, and I'd love for you to explain why that is and what's the difference between grass-fed, grass-finished, or somewhat grass-fed or organic,
or grass-fed, grain-finished,
which I understand why some people do that as well. Don't necessarily get in the weeds of like what's better, what's worse, or whatever. General view, and then why do you guys do what you do?
Okay, so like obviously I have learned this, especially being on the back side of the industry. It's just like I tell everybody, just don't trust labels. Labels, there's so many loopholes, and it's no different than the legal system, really. It's like the people who are lobbied to write the laws, like the companies that lobby to get their little loopholes put in laws so it can benefit them. The same thing happens in the food industry. So like, a USDA organic like might mean something to you, that it doesn't legally mean to the company that's producing it. And so like most small farms that are organic certified, like I'm not telling you like don't trust those people. I'm just saying do your own research, try to use the political phrase, trust but verify. And so like that's kind of how we operate is we don't need the government's labels. Like we would rather have connections with our customers that share our values and let us show them what we're doing. And so good to answer the second question, grass fed, grass finished, like, so we're 100% grass. There's a lot, again, that's a label term where there are certain things where you can feed certain crop residues and things like that to animals, and they're still considered grass fed. Yep. Like they're, but we are 100%. I always tell people like the whole soul of our business is integrity. It's like, I want whatever the customer thinks when I tell you we're grass fed, grass finished, whatever you think that means, I better well know what you are thinking that means, and I better be living up to it. Not me doing all these shady things in the background, but it's still legally this. Like, no. Yeah. So like it's kind of no BS. What you see is what you get. And so why we do that. You said don't get into the health benefits stuff. Like we won't touch on that. We do believe that the fats that are created by animals that are living in a natural system, not being fed grains, the fat that they produce is healthier, higher in omega-3s, all that kind of stuff. But we'll shelve that. And
that's a whole nother Zoom call.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll focus more on the fact that focusing back on the regenerative side of things, we do what we do because our catchphrase is respectfully ranching in nature's image. And so again, going back to like, we're trying to replicate nature. Well, nature doesn't like go out and plant, 100 acres of just corn to harvest the grain and then feed it to ruminants. Like it doesn't work that way. We want polycultures, if you will. So in other words, lots of different species of forages for our cattle to eat from, because going back to what you said about mineral deficiencies, things, each plant is going to have a different profile of energy and minerals available at any given time and season. So we want that for our animals. We want them to be able to choose what they need at any given time. So yeah, like that's kind of to not focus on the health side of things. That's kind of why we do what we do.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to not focus on it. It was more like not knocking anything.
Oh yeah.
Not saying one is superior, you should never do the other one, because again, in a world like, I'm going to go down the street and have a burger on a Saturday, maybe watching football, and I'm going to eat a burger that's not 100% grass-fed,
yeah,
right?
So one of my favorite phrases is dogma is dangerous.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, like, you can get really into the weeds. Like, I might be a purist, right? I might be doing everything just as clean and as amazing as I can possibly do it, and I still might not live up to somebody else's standard. Yeah. And so they might think I'm the devil. And to me, that's dangerous. And so I might not agree with sending my animals to a feedlot. I might not want that. I might not want to participate in that system. But that doesn't mean that system came about for evil purposes, or that it doesn't have a place. So I'm not going to throw stones at the rest of the agricultural sector. There are plenty of people who will do that. For me, it's more like I want to just do what I feel is right and bring alongside people to support that. And if that's not where you sit, that's fine. There's a place for everybody. So
there's a place for everybody, and it's always the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time, eat 100% clean, and there's no doubt about it. There's no way to invalidate the research that's out there. And if you want to look it up, it's like you were talking about the good omega-3s, higher sources of protein, better quality nutrients, to use your words, like the diversity, the biodiversity of the different styles of grasses and what that's going to do inside the body. And from my research, biodiversity is one of the most important things someone can do in one's own health, from not only the foods that they eat, but the interactions and where they go and where they put their feet in the ground. So no doubt about it, eating this stuff on a consistent basis, on a more regular basis, is only going to lead to conclude to higher levels of health, well-being, and vitality. So it's not that I wanted to avoid it. It was just one of those things where, let's frame it. And like, for most people aren't going to eat 100% perfect.
Oh no. And like I tell people
can...
that all the time. Like, I'll still go out ashamedly if I'm out on the road or something. I'll eat a Wendy's burger.
How could you? How could you do that?
It doesn't mean that I'm like all of a sudden. I've literally done this before. My wife has called me a hypocrite. I have hauled beef, like delivered beef to people, and been like 2 hours from home, starving to death, stop and get a fast food burger. And I get home and she sees me bringing in the trash, throw it, and she's like, "Are you you just hauled our regeneratively raised grass-fed beef and you stopped and ate that?" And I'm like,
I'm kind of on her side. I'm kind of on her side. You got to get a little like portable George Foreman.
Yeah, that's right. I should have brought a doggy bag.
Yeah, hook it up to the car, just like that. Cool, man. Well, hey, let's dive into the last piece. So the whole reason that we wanted to chat was that you had a great idea to do a giveaway, a half a cow for our REV community, and anyone watching this video to join in. It's going to be a $2,500 giveaway, so a pretty big giveaway. Please share the details of that and how people can participate.
Okay, so to participate, you have to put in a $500 deposit, which is our standard deposit for a half a cow, on our website, reverentwildranch.com. And when you put that deposit in, I'm going to give you a promo code, REV. What do you want to do? You want to do REV 2023?
Perfect.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll do REV 2023. That's your promo code. And that just shows me that you came to us via this community. And we will put you in the drawing to win that half of beef. If you are not selected to win the half of beef, we're still going to not leave you out to dry. That $500 deposit still applies to your half of beef, and we're still going to reduce that price from a $2,500 price point. We're going to knock it down to $2,200 for the REV community. So that's the raffle. And we decided we were going to draw it when? Did we say the 13th of October?
I think October 13th.
I think it was Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Because we joked about
a little less than a month when this airs. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, that's a really great giveaway. So essentially breaking it down, anyone in the REV community, if you are looking for a cow share, a half of a cow, which is about how much weight generally?
So typically you're going to see around 170 pounds of beef from that. It's going to vary animal to animal, 150, 180, give or take, depending on just how big that specific animal is. But that's going to be the average.
And I've run the numbers. Like if you are a family of 4 or a family of 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, it's like I ran the numbers of what the ground beef was per pound, and I was like doing the numbers on our ground beef, feeding our family like 2 pounds of beef. I'm like spending like $16 for dinner tonight. Like that's it for a family of 4. Like the value is there when you buy in bulk, right? So this isn't going to be for everybody, but and maybe you don't need a whole half pound of beef. And Michael has offered that if people do want to come in together, maybe 2 families, to split one of those half beefs, you guys are more than welcome to do that. It would just be one entry, and then if you win or if you buy it for the $2,200, you guys would just have to split it individually and figure that out.
Correct.
Everything is weighted. So I actually did that a long time ago with someone else and another cow share, and we just got half pound, and then we just split it. Here, you. It wasn't that hard. So that's something that's good you guys can do if you don't feel like your whole family is going to be able to do a half cow, or if you have the freezer room for it. But
and that's another thing I want to just cover real quick is the freezer space. Is a lot of times people think like, oh my gosh, I have a cow, I'm going to need this massive freezer. And in reality, like all of our stuff is vacuum sealed. And so it takes up a lot less space than what your traditional like paper butcher wrapped stuff does. So I typically tell people for a half a cow, if you have an 8 cubic foot, which is not exceptionally large freezer, you can hold a half a cow in about 8 cubic feet.
Yep, totally. Yeah, it was it was a lot, but it wasn't a ton where I thought I had a
Correct.
really big, chest freezer, and it
Yeah.
wasn't even halfway. Not
Correct.
even.
Yeah. It's like if you have a big chest freezer, like a half a cow, no, you can put a whole cow in it.
The whole cow
Yeah,
plus.
but a
Yeah.
half a cow, yeah, it's not going to take up nearly as much room.
Cool, man. Michael, I appreciate this conversation. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything that you feel like we didn't get across to the people?
Um, Not really. I would say like if you're interested in kind of seeing the background of what we do, you can follow us on our social media pages.
Absolutely.
Have a good bit of backlogs of content there that you can see me call my cows.
Yeah,
Um,
share your social media accounts here.
so
And by the way, he is I found out, a famous TikToker. He is a cow calling man, and he has a nice following on TikTok. So if you're into TikTok,
uh,
make sure to follow.
and if you're not, don't get it. No,
Yeah.
I would say we're Reverent Wild Ranch everywhere. No spaces, no nothing. Just Reverent Wild Ranch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Michael, man, great talking to you.
You too, Matt.
Amazing conversation, tons of value, and also just grateful that you're willing to do this giveaway with our community. One lucky winner will be announced on Friday the 13th, October 13th. Half a cow, $2,500 value. So share this with your friends, share this with your family, and I hope you guys gain some value out of this. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely.